You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file.
That doesn't sound too hard.
This is Making Tracks.
This is the way.
Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
I know these people. They are brutal. Does this look Jedi to you?
That's not how the Force works.
They'll never see it coming.
Count me in.
Misa back.
Hello there, Fantha Universe. This is Mark, back from his summer holiday, back with episode 229 of Making Tracks, brought to you by those fine folk over at Fantha Tracks. And joining me, as always, is my rather distinctly average co-host. It's Mr. Mark Newbold. Mark, how you doing, buddy?
I'm very average, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just slightly below average.
You've been on holiday. You've caught the sun. You had a good time?
I had a lovely time because I basically didn't do a huge amount. You know, sat around, all you can eat, all inclusive. Which had a great gym, so I was actually able to consume a lot and then not worry too much about putting too much weight on because I was able to burn it off. It worked out quite well for me. How about you? How have you been?
Busy as always. I also feel like I live at an all-you-can-eat buffet, but I don't work it off. So there's the difference. We've had an unplanned hiatus from Making Tracks. It's just the way it landed. You were away. I forgot you were away. Then when you got back, I was too busy to record.
Yeah.
And now here we are with a month's worth of news. Thankfully, Good Morning Tatooine hasn't missed a beat. All the other stuff has been good. It's been ticking along quite nicely.
The last time I think we even recorded, and the last time I saw you would have been at London Film Comic Con.
It was, yeah. I'd say the month has just flown by. Here we are on the cusp of August.
I know.
And yeah, we've got some catching up to do, I think.
Yeah.
Shall we dive into some news?
Yes, it's been San Diego Comic Con this weekend, so it's been quite a few little announcements, I'd imagine.
San Diego Comic Con. The lads at Good Morning Tatooine went through a load of stuff last night, so you can go back and check that out on Fantha Tracks TV. But we thought we would start off today's episode with a look at George Lucas's panel. It was his first time ever turning up for San Diego Comic-Con. He had 6,500 people in Hall H, which I'm told is a record. They went absolutely loopy bananas. Quite apart from George being there was Guillermo del Toro was there, Doug Chiang was there, Queen Latifah was there, and obviously the main event was George talking about the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. Of the things that we've seen, we've learned, obviously, it's not a Star Wars museum, far from it, but there will be Star Wars art in there, Macquarie art, there'll be Jim Steranko art from Raiders, there's going to be some props, there's going to be some vehicles, so there certainly will be Star Wars things in the museum when it opens next year. 40,000 art pieces as well. It's a narrative art museum, so there's incredible collections in there that Lucas and his team have curated over the years leading up to the museum opening. Of all of those things, let's say apart from the obvious Star Wars stuff, if such a museum was going to draw you over to LA, what would it be that would draw you across?
Two things that spring to mind. One, it boggles the mind that this was like George Lucas's first appearance at San Diego Comic-Con. You know, you think about how really Star Wars and Lucasfilm and really San Diego Comic-Con kind of go hand in hand. You know, all those pictures from way back in the day, back when it was just Star Wars and that, and they were pitching Star Wars to the SDCC fans back in 76. But I'm glad that he got like such a standing ovation, and he looks really good, actually. So you said no Star Wars. That cuts out the life-size Naboo Starfighter or General Grievous's wheel bike. I'm quite interested to see what the mythology gallery is about, because that's meant to cover like Egyptian, Greek and Roman gods, and I guess how mythology and storytelling is connected through the ages. So that will be quite interesting. This is what I really like about this museum. As you said, it's not just Star Wars and it's not just film and Indiana Jones and stuff. It's going to delve deep into what storytelling is all about, and also what the impact of art and storytelling has on people throughout the ages. Like, there's going to be a massive collection of classic Peanut sketches. Plus, as well, I think he's got a load of original Marvel artwork from like Iron Man and Black Panther. So it sounds like it's coming along quite nicely. And on top of that, there's meant to be 33 galleries. These are slightly additional to the main museum, so these will probably then be extended to specific curated collections, which will probably change periodically. So that's interesting and stuff. There's also 2 theatres and a library, and of course a cafe, and I'd imagine a rather hefty gift shop. And the fact is, it's opening in 2026, which means it will be open and everything should be in place by the time me and you get there for LA in 2027.
I'm looking forward to seeing the comic stuff because, as you say, he's got a lot of first editions, a lot of original artwork. Obviously, the Flash Gordon stuff that we know referenced Star Wars back in the day. George used to co-own a comic shop in New York called Super Snipe. There's a long comics history that kind of come along with George. Quite famously, he bought all the original artwork for Dark Times, the Dark Horse series. So he owns all the artwork from that. So there's a lot of connections to that kind of art, and the Peanut stuff would be fascinating. Couldn't get more pop culture than that. The way you described mythological stuff, if you remember Power of Myth back in the day, it's got that kind of a real expanded big time vibe of that, because obviously the Joseph Campbell thing has been mentioned numerous times in relation to Star Wars as being, a bit of a guideline for George and the hero's journey and all that stuff, which I think is such a well-trodden, over-referred to thing.
Yeah, you make a good point about that, because somebody said recently that, it wasn't like he set out to use Joseph Campbell's stuff. It's just like, but, that's what made sense and fitted what he needed to do. Because I can remember that Power of Myth tour, that would have been, 90? Was that 98?
Oh, very late 90s,
yeah, it was before the prequels. I think I saw that at the old Wembley. It seems that Joseph Campbell mythology stuff and George writing Star Wars, it's kind of become a slight urban myth, I think.
Yeah.
I don't quite exactly know. I don't even know how much, George has ever really honestly sat down and said, I used it as a guideline as such, but I didn't I wasn't trying to kind of like finitely follow the steps, as it were. But I guess that's the whole point of Joseph Campbell's studies, was the fact that actually, if you look around and you look at all these different mythologies and all these big stories about, these epics, they all seem to follow a similar pattern. Look at Krull. That's Joseph Campbell 101. That's literally
so's Harry Potter. So's the Matrix.
Exactly. Yeah. And even stuff like Lord of the Rings, it's very easy to start to draw comparisons and stuff, whether or not they're intentional or not. So this is fantastic. And also, actually, what I really like is just the building itself looks really cool.
Hi, this is Andy Seacombe, otherwise known as Watto, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
So, fantastic news. Charles Ross is returning to the UK stage with one-man Star Wars trilogy. It's hitting the stage on the 5th of November in Basingstoke, 7th and 8th of November in Dublin, the 12th of November in Glasgow, and the 13th of November in Edinburgh. It is a guaranteed good time. He brought it over here 20 years ago, getting on 4. He performed it, as I remember. Did he perform it at Celebration Europe?
Yeah.
So he went out on tour a couple of times. He certainly brought it to my town where I saw it in Lichfield. I've seen it twice. Did you ever have the pleasure of seeing One Man Star Wars Trilogy?
Funnily enough, I've seen it twice. I saw it once as a punter, and I did sound for Charlie. I think he took it to Camberley, and I did sound for it. I distinctly remember making a point of saying to my technical manager that I needed to be booked them out or face the wrath of my 21-inch pythons.
Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan, by the way.
Yeah, rest in peace. So it's good time, good fun. I cannot really recall, and I wonder if he's tweaked it and retooled it since then, because obviously it's 20 years since you've seen it and I've seen it. Just wonder, he was very cleverly picked up on a lot of zeitgeist commentary and stuff, which has since about 20 years has probably been done to death. So it may not necessarily feel as fresh, but at the same time, it's just such a cool concept, actually having Charlie do all the different roles. And I can remember I was mightily impressed when he did Jabba the Hutt. I thought that was really cool.
All of it was brilliant because he threw himself into it and throws himself. He wouldn't be bringing it back. He couldn't still do it. Throws himself into it so much. And like you say, when we saw it in Lichfield, myself and John Hicks, who's our role-play editor, and had a brilliant time. But it's just him in a boiler suit, basically, isn't it, on the stage?
Which is all you need. It's Star Wars. Yeah. And there's plenty of boiler suits in Star Wars.
He did it with The Blessing of Lucasfilm. If I remember rightly, hadn't George seen it and George enjoyed it?
Yes, he probably chuckled a couple of times.
Which is uproarious belly laughter for the rest of us, isn't it? Really?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's a massive tick in the box. So if you get the chance to go and see One Man Star Wars Trilogies, here for the dates that we just mentioned, the article's up on the site so you can find out more information there. We shall certainly be trying to get to one of those shows, probably the Basingstoke one, I would imagine. And if we can, we'll do our utmost to get in front of Charlie and have a catch up with him, because it's been a long time since we've seen him on these shores. So that'll be a very welcome return.
Hi, this is Ethan Sachs, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
For any Star Wars fan, it must be the dream that you open up a box and find 15 unopened tri-logo Return of the Jedi era Star Wars figures, completely mint, just waiting to be loved. And that's what happened. 15 figures, one of which was Yak Face, a bit of a holy grail, certainly for American collectors. The 15 figures sold for £5,460. Yak Face alone went for £2,100, way above the estimate of 1,000. There was an R2D2 pop-up lightsaber figure that went for 520. They all had those beautiful stickers on saying new figure, £1.59. I dream of this. And if you look at the picture on Fantha, it's a mighty fine collection of figures. I just can't imagine finding something like that.
What's surprising about these is the fact that none of the bubbles in these figures, like of the photos anyway. And you've got, was it Barada? You've got
it's Warrock, I think.
Peebo or Warwick, Yak Face. I mean, you've got Luke and Stormtrooper disguised last 17 and pop-up lightsaber R2. So all those figures, or most of them, at least in one of the photos, seem to be like unpunched. I mean, the cards look a little bit bent, but that's what would happen if they've been up in a loft for like almost 40 years. But the bubbles, clear as anything, clear as a bell.
That's the treat, isn't it? I think the card is understandable, but the bubble being so clear as they are is just,
I paid for a carded R2D2 pop-up lightsaber, and the card was pretty screwed. I mean, the bubble was kind of clearish, but the card was a little bit, it wasn't great. And this was just before Force Awakens, and I paid 499 quid. But I mean, I flipped it and I probably sold it for about 550 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, that's about right. And that was kind of really at the real peak of Force Awakens was coming out and everybody's going bonkers for Star Wars figures again. The vintage kind of like demand has kind of like slowed and abated a little bit since the end of the pandemic, I've noticed.
Talking earlier about Lucas Museum, we will have a certain audience that will want to go and see it. And there's other things that sort of feel increasingly, even within Star Wars, as we approach the 50th of their time, things that we would be very excited about, but modern fans might not be. I just wonder as the collecting process moves on, at some point, vintage won't be the be-all and end-all of collecting. Like in time with Star Wars, Darth Vader's revealing the Empire Strikes Back won't be the key central moment that people point to as everything revolves around that. I just wonder with collecting whether these things, like we're seeing figures of a couple of thousand for a Yak Face in 10, 20 years' time, will it still be the case?
Problem is that with a lot of these toys and stuff like that, there isn't the market, the second or third generation market to sell them onto. So then the prices go really down. Now, what's interesting about Star Wars is the fact that there probably is a better market because there's fans all the time. Like, we discussed when we went to see the 35mm screen print at the BFI. To us, it was a big deal. But like you said, you wonder, like, to younger fans, if it means quite so much. I mean, obviously, we find, because we've been around for a while collecting, both you and I, peaks and troughs, doesn't it? It depends on how Star Wars is really doing in the public kind of eye, and like how popular is the box office and stuff. That has a knock-on effect onto like secondary sales and stuff like that. Because we haven't had a big film release, and there hasn't really been anything that's really grabbed the audiences in the same way as, say, Force Awakens. Prices for vintage stuff seems to be slightly on the downturn, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to go back up.
It's a market, but it's also the connection to the product as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah, if you're a comic collector, if you're in your 20s and you're collecting Star Wars comics and you think, I'm going to get every Star Wars comic, you're going to be more connected to the new modern era that's 10 years old this year of Marvel than you ever will the original 77 to 86
or even
era.
The Dark Horse era. You can kind of argue and say, well, it wasn't canon. As in, like, it wasn't canon back then.
That's a good point.
In fact, Legends moniker is nicely collectively captured all that, the Marvel runs and the Dark Horse runs and everything else.
But that's a get out of jail clause as well, if you want to.
That's a get out of jail clause for storytelling. But you wonder if actually, like a newer fan who comes in, how interested are they really going to be into that? When we get to, say, like the end of season 2 of Ahsoka, and I guess we see maybe the fate of Grand Admiral Thrawn, it's like, how many people are really that interested who are new to the franchise to go back to Heir to the Empire and Dark Horse?
And also, Heir to the Empire is quite big on the sort of the whole Star Wars scene. It's an easy one to point to, but that we got beyond that, and the Mara Jade thing took off, and then there's all of her stuff, and then Outbound exactly that. All those things that came off from the back of that after the Thrawn trilogy had finished, before he came back, and then obviously the West End Games stuff, the Hasbro 2-packs, things like that. So there is other stuff that's out there that's there to chase. But as you say, if you're not connected to the original source material, not just Star Wars as a whole, but that original kind of source material, it doesn't mean the same, really, does it?
Is this partly not actually the Disney strategy? Having reclassified and cleaned the canon, shall we say, by reclassifying the legend stuff.
Yeah.
And then kind of saying, right, everything we've released is now canon, even though on one hand, it's still storytelling and they're still pulling stuff from it. Is it slightly devaluing it? So therefore, like as the fandom moves on, it becomes less important. So therefore, the cries for people to go, we want Mara Jade, become a little bit quieter.
What you say there is that if there was a way of working out or quantifying what the spend of Star Wars fandom is on Star Wars in a 12-month period, how much of that spend is on brand new, box fresh Disney stuff, and how much of that percentage is on vintage, secondhand, eBay, Amazon, old stuff. I'd love to know what the split between the two is, because the way you've just phrased it is perfect, actually. From a business point of view, it makes all the sense. Why would Disney want you spending all your Star Wars available money on eBay stuff and books from 30 years ago? They want you to buy the stuff that's coming out now. So what you say, actually, from a business model point of view, makes all the sense. And I think that will bear more fruit if they stay the course on the long term, when people like you and me are out the way, either out the game or off the planet, and not talking about the stuff that we talk about and fondly remember. Our shared starting point is kind of the 90s. Mine's a little bit before that. But, we can talk about that stuff. And even that now, the 90s, now you're talking, that's 30 years ago. So you're not spending money on Disney stuff if you're buying stuff from 30 years ago. But you're certainly buying Lucasfilm stuff, but they ain't making any money out of it.
They're not, no, exactly. Secondary market is one of those things that actually, the only person who maybe profits from it is the person who bought it originally, who may have forgotten about it and left it in their loft for 30 years.
Hi, this is Hugh Quashing. I've had great pleasure in recording this interview for Fantha Tracks.
This week we've had a couple of pieces, actually 3 pieces of Star Wars Outlaws news. The first was in regards to the game and the low and hopeful sales numbers from Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot. He gave his opinion of Star Wars Outlaws. He said, we didn't reach our sales target. And why? The game suffered from a number of items. First, it suffered from the fact that it was released at a time when the brand that it belonged to was in a bit of choppy waters, and the game had a few items that still needed to be polished, and they were polished and debugged in the early weeks, but it did affect sale volumes. So he says, CEO of Ubisoft, that Star Wars as a brand wasn't having the best of times, and that affected Star Wars Outlaws. Cut to later on in the week, when we got a second report, Tom Henderson talking on the Inside Gaming podcast, and he said that Ubisoft had cancelled a potential sequel. So 2 bits of news followed up by a bit of San Diego Comic-Con news when they announced the reveal of a new Star Wars Outlaws book called Low Red Sun by author Mike Chen. So 3 bits of Outlaws news. 1, that the first game didn't sell so well. 2, that the rumour is that they're now cancelling a sequel game. And the 3rd, that there's a book coming out tying into all of that. I've not played Outlaws. I'm a PS4 guy very occasionally. It's not coming out on PS4. I'm going to have to figure something out. I at least want to own it because I like to physically own all the games. Have you played Star Wars Outlaws, Mark?
I brought the PS5 for that and Jedi Survivor, really, I think. And I have downloaded it and I've probably played it for about a few hours. And that's not because I thought it was rubbish. It looked stunning, I thought. I just haven't got the time. I just don't have the time to sit down and commit to kind of chomp through a game. It's literally burning in my brain every now and again to go, you must go and turn it on, and I'll turn on the PS5 and I'll probably have to wait for an hour for updates to download and stuff like that.
I'm coming to yours in a couple of 3 weeks' time because you're very kindly putting on a barbecue. So I might just say, go on, put it on. Let me have a go.
Let's freaking do it. Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, it cost, from what I recall seeing, somewhere between I think the absolute low end was 200 million and the top end was about 400 million to develop and market. About 10 months ago, they had sold about 1 million copies. That doesn't bode very well. That's almost a year ago. So, yeah. But then kind of you'd imagine initial kind of rush for a game is probably it's like a film, isn't it?
Opening weekend, yeah.
I mean, but to put that into perspective, the new Grand Theft Auto 6 is costing, I believe, about $2 billion to develop. But they reckon the first, I can't remember how many weeks, is going to be $7 billion they're going to make back, which is 90% of all their box office takings for Hollywood in a year or something. So
now, here's an interesting fact about that in addition to that, and this is the Star Wars link. Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out the same week as Mandalorian and Grogu. So what do you think that's going to do to the opening weekend box office of Mando and Grogu?
To be honest, it could do some damage. The thing is, I've said to Karen when it first announced, because I've done this every single time since Vice City's come out, and I've literally, when it's come out, booked a week off and just played it, and for as many hours as I could stand. Now, I could still do that, but if it's coming out with Mando and Grogu, there's a big chance that I will be going to see Mando Grogu more than I'm going to play GTA 6.
You've at least bought it, so you'll own it.
Exactly, yeah. But then there's two differences. So, like, both boys in my house, they both play GTA 5, and I play GTA 5. Now, the difference is that I only play the story mode because I can't be asked with all this online stuff, if I'm honest. But they don't play the story mode. They only play the online stuff. By the giggles and the laughter and the shouting and swearing that we get at 2 or 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, they're probably having far more fun than I am. Because, like, I mean, I am normally in bed and shouting at them to shut up. But you know, they've been playing that constantly for like 18 months, 2 years. So I think that's maybe part of the problem with Outlaws, is that it was kind of open world, but it wasn't really. And not on a scale of what you needed it to be a success, I think.
I feel for Star Wars in a way, because you had Fallen Order, massive hit. Survivor, arguably bigger hit. And I think the soundtrack won an Emmy. So they've done some great numbers and they've done some brilliant business. Squadrons came out, didn't really hit big. I love Squadrons. What I've played of it, really enjoyed it. Then Outlaws comes out, which was the open game thing that we've always wanted. Hogwarts Legacy was out at the same sort of time and everyone was talking about that. And it did feel like Outlaws never quite caught on. Back in the day when I used to play Galaxies, which I still think we should be 25 years into Galaxies by now. I think it's crazy they never carried that on. That game, you could design your own hero character, change the height, change the width, change everything. It was customizable. Yeah. And yet with Outlaws, they definitively gave you a hero character and a hero sidekick and all the things. It was boxed in. You had to play those characters. And that did seem to some people, that was a downside to the game, in that you were open world, yes, but you had to play as Vess. You were linked to those characters specifically. And that did seem to derail some people to a certain degree.
We just had Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, which is very similar. You could change Cal Kestis's cosmetics, change it, his lightsaber hilt and composition, and, is he wearing a poncho or not? Has he got a beard or a mullet or what have you? Yeah. The same with the droid and stuff. But really, that's kind of about it. Gamers want a lot more customizable options these days. They want a lot more control. Squadrons did really well when that came out. That had a very limited scope because it didn't have a story mode. Whereas Battlefront 2, when that came out, that had a really good balance. And the only negative to that was, it was at the height of the whole EA microcharging for everything and stuff.
Yes.
But they addressed that and that gave it life. And then we saw recently that, there was a big push to kind of try and get people to take notice and greenlight Battlefront 3 by everybody was playing Battlefront. And I even hopped on for a little bit just to get my arse handed to me by a 14-year-old, which is kind of what I'm used to now in gaming. So I've made my peace with that. I'm less likely to buy a game that is just online player versus player type stuff. I kind of want the story because that's where I get more involved in it and get more invested. At that point, when it is a story mode, it could be your own single character.
Do you think that was the problem for Outlaws then? Not that it was KVS and the cat and the droid and the little creature. Not that it was those as the characters, far from it. But that because it was an open world game that sort of kind of said, you can go wherever you want. You can just explore and do your own thing. Like GTA, you just drive around the city, just doing whatever, listening to Power Slave or whatever. And you could just do that thing and just enjoy the locations. Do you think that hurt Outlaws because it kind of sold it on the fact that you can go anywhere? You just get in your ship and fly off.
I can remember playing stuff like Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six and stuff, like where you had to kind of be a bit more stealthy and a bit more sneaky. Yeah. And this is why I love GTA so much. It's because I could just get out a shotgun and just blow somebody away. Unless the actual mission kind of specifically says you have to use a hammer and you've got to sneak and you can't be detected. 99% of the time, you can just literally go and cause absolute mayhem. And that's right down my street. If I have to start worrying about, I need to send a little Chrissa to go and attack or distract him whilst I do that, which just possibly talks more about my type of gaming that I prefer rather than anything else. But maybe there's that. And that was a nice thing with Jedi Fallen Order, Matt, was that actually, you got a lightsaber, there was a little bit of sneaking, stealthy stuff you needed to do, but it wasn't the main MO of the game, whereas this was a little bit more strategy, kind of felt a bit more RPG in that respect.
Well, I'm really hoping with the book coming out that reignites interest. Hunters came out, which I thought was great fun. I kind of see why it never caught on, but it was vivid, it was enjoyable. I'm a lousy gamer, but even I had fun with it. So I get why that never quite caught on. And also it was announced so long ago, it took forever to come out. So I think the interest had waned by the time the game even arrived. But with Outlaws, I'm hopeful with those characters, bit of backstory to some of the characters. It's another little corner of the IP, isn't it? It's a bit like what we were talking about earlier about Thrawn. It's its own little thing. Yeah.
I think if I was Ubisoft, I would have just gone, this is a Dr. Aphra story.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to be Dr. Aphra, because that's already an established character who's already got an established look and design and isn't too dissimilar.
Star Wars has got its own Tomb Raider, and they're missing the trick.
I think so. I think that would have been so much more fun. Potentially, then we've seen it in the Marvel comics, there's like all this interaction with like Han and Luke and everybody, Vader and stuff.
Yeah.
Whether or not maybe they wanted to steer clear of that. Like I said, I've not played enough of the game to know actually who you meet along the way, but it kind of felt like you could have totally done that. It could have been a Dr. Aphra adventure. That would have been so much more fun. So there you go. Outlaws 2, a Dr. Aphra story.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
A couple of weeks ago, I had the good fortune to go to Comic-Con Birmingham at the NEC. It was, as we found out, the very last public appearance of Ozzy Osbourne, but also it was a show where 3 members of the Andor cast were present. Elizabeth Delau was Claire, April V. Woods, who was young Claire, and Jacob James Beswick, who was ISB Supervisor Heert. I had the chance to sit down with Jacob, have a little chat about his time in Andor.
Okie dokie, so we're here back at the NEC. I'm here with Jacob.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Enjoying the show?
Enjoying it, very much enjoying it. Liking meeting all of the people who've seen the show.
Yes.
Finally feeling like it's reached some people and hearing their feedback. Sometimes when you watch it all alone at home, you don't get the feedback. Do you know what I mean? It's not like theatre where you meet the people, the audience afterwards. So it's nice getting to meet them here.
The last time we've met twice, but the last time we met was at the Light Room in London, and you were in a crowd of people, and I very cheekily came over and said hello. But one thing I did say was I'd seen all 12 episodes, and I don't think you'd seen any, and your first instant reaction was, is it any good?
Yeah.
Which a lot of folks who were in the show said, is it any good? Now you've seen it, what do you think of it?
I think it's very good. I think it's very good. It was really like impressive to watch all of the work that we've done, and then to see how that had then in post been stitched together, but also seeing all of the post-production, like the CGI, especially like my death was quite exciting to watch. I was like, how are they gonna do that? How are they gonna edit it? How are they gonna do the post on it? What's it going to look like? And they knocked it out of the park.
What did you make of that then? Because it was such... I mean, when you said you hadn't seen it, I was itching to go, your death scene was amazing. And then when you said you hadn't seen it, I zipped up. Yeah. Now you've seen it. I mean, it was pretty full on.
Yeah, epic. Sort of comical.
Yeah, in a way, I guess, yeah.
Comical and also like horrific.
Yeah.
I sort of knew it was going to be horrific. It lived up to all of my expectations. It surpassed my expectations.
That's good.
Yeah, I think it was a fitting end to Heert. Yeah.
Yes. Also, one of the things that really struck me and the guys from the site watching both seasons of the show, in the season 1 of the show, you're definitely a supporting character. Mm-hmm. You're supporting Dedra. You're her main help and aid and assistance. As season 2 comes in, you've had a big glow up, a big promotion. Now you're sort of on a par with her, and the profile of the character, incredibly, like Elizabeth with Claire, steps up a big order. And Robert M's, obviously, your characters move right to the forefront. Was that something you expected from the start? Was that very much a surprise and a pleasant one?
Yeah, it was a complete surprise. I didn't even know if I would be coming back for season 2.
Right.
Once season 1 wrapped. And then when I found out I was coming back, I was very excited. And when I found out that it was like a significant role, I was like over the moon. And a bit apprehensive because they're big shoes to fill. Those Imperial shoes.
Yes.
And I was very excited and it's interesting because I think in season 1, me and Elizabeth, we're sort of a bit of a mirror image of each other. She's the assistant of Stella and I'm the assistant of Denise. And then we also ascend at the same time in a kind of like mirror image.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting, and it's been really lovely getting to know Elizabeth in season 2 and being here with her at this convention has been really nice.
Did you hope for a heroic turn, or were you glad that you stayed?
No, I think it made sense that he was like. I think here is ISB through and through.
Yeah.
And fully like unquestioningly on that side, like it is very like black and white for him that this is the right side to be fighting for.
Yeah.
The only way to have order in the universe is within the Imperials. So it would have been a real switch if he'd suddenly made a sort of like rebel turn. But obviously he has a deep relationship with Robert Ems's character, with Lonnie.
Now I've got to ask you about this, because I interviewed Robert a couple of months ago, and one of the things he said was, did you pick up on the little flirtation between Hart and Lonnie? And I said yes. It wasn't overt, but it was definitely there. Now I'm hearing it from the other side, so was that the intention?
It was overt. For me, I wanted it to be as overt as possible within what had been written.
Yeah.
And I do think there were, within the writing, like I think, do I ask him to lunch or he asks me to lunch? Like there's a definite kind of an unsuccessful seduction there. And I think Heert's relationship with Lonnie, I think there's a definite amorous element to it. Yeah, there's romance there for him. So he's been honey trapped.
Honey trapped, that's a line. So here's a question then. So when Phantom Menace came out and Liam Neeson and Anakin's mom Shmi have their little friendship, in the subtext Liam always thought there was something going on. The night before the pod race something happened, but it was an actor's thing. It was like, that's how I felt about it, and we tried to work it in, and I don't know if George was aware of that. Was Tony Gilroy aware of what you and Rob was doing?
I actually don't know. I didn't speak to Tony about it. So I don't know. I feel like all of the clues were there.
Yeah.
And it felt overt to me that something deeper was going on there than at least from Heert's side, than friendship. But no, I didn't really discuss it with anyone. I just played it.
Yeah.
And tried to play it as hard as possible.
Well, it worked, because I mean, people outside picked it up.
Yes.
So it definitely worked.
Yeah, and he's like really heartbroken when he finds out that he's died.
Yeah.
And also feels so like betrayed and conflicted and confused when he finds out that he was part of the rebels, that he was a spy.
It's crazy when it all starts to break down, because it's so well written and so well performed. I mean, across the boards, it's everything clicked, and that's somebody in the fandom saying that, so it clicked on all cylinders. When you're working on it as an actor, obviously you only see bits, you only see your bits generally. Do you get a sense that, I'm in something of substance here, something that's really connecting with the audience?
I mean, in season 1, not really. I knew that it would connect to a big fandom, but I wasn't really aware of Star Wars aside from it as kind of a huge franchise.
Yeah.
I wasn't really that aware of it. I think I'd seen like episode 1 once. I got a sense that it was something good, and obviously the team around, especially Tony, was like a huge draw, and I knew that he was going to do something different with it. But I hadn't seen Rogue One, so I didn't really know what that was going to be. It was really watching season 1 where I was like, oh wow, there's such a like depth to this story, and it's so topical, and so emotional as well. I didn't expect that, but then knowing when I was coming back for season 2, I was like, I knew what I was involved in, because I'd seen season 1.
So given all of that, then, given that you're coming to it with fresh eyes, very much like Tony was. He wasn't a Star Wars fan. He didn't know a huge amount about it. His kids did, but he didn't. Has that given you a sort of the lure, maybe, to kind of get a bit more into it now, to watch Rogue One, to be a bit more involved?
I've watched it now. I think I've watched them all now. I haven't, but not the like animated series.
That's fair. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Rebels is brilliant because it ties in with your stuff.
Yeah, I should watch it.
Yeah,
should have watched it. But I watched all of the films because I got cast at the start of lockdown in season 1.
Right.
So in prep, I watched all of the films. I don't. And I really enjoyed them. But I was more into Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh. I hear you.
Yeah, that was my thing. And I think because I engage with it on like a work level, it's just not majorly my thing.
Sure. No, that is a very diplomatic answer.
Entirely honest. Not that I didn't enjoy it, and I do enjoy it. And my auntie and my cousins on my mum's side are like huge fans.
Right.
Big fans.
So it's in there.
So excited that I was going to be involved in it. It was so excited. So it's in my blood, but it's not in my personality.
Gotcha. That's fair enough. And finally, before I let you go, being at an event like this, being involved in Star Wars now, you could be doing shows like this for the next 30, 40, 50 years for all we know.
Yeah.
Are you welcoming that? I mean, it's another string to your bow. And I saw you at Starfield last year. It was great fun. So you're great up on stage. So there's, you're going to engage the audience in your conversation. Is that something that's a welcome addition to all the other things that you can do with your life?
I think it is, because it's an extension of something that I love, which is acting. And like I say, I was always I was a huge fan of Buffy. I was a huge fan of there are lots of things that I was a fan of. And so then to be able to be on the other side and to be part of a big franchise, and then to be able to meet people where they've enjoyed that work, where that work has affected them is amazing and so nice. And I came to a convention, I think I said this at Star Fury last year, that I came as a Buffy fan to a convention and met Emma Caulfield and cried and it was amazing. And so to be able to then be probably not quite to the extent, nobody's cried when they've met me, and I don't wish for that. But to be able to some extent be able to meet people and bridge that gap between watching it on TV and then meeting that person, it's like an honor. Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah. And everybody's so nice. And it's a lovely community of people, the Star Wars fandom. Yeah.
Well, just to say, the previous show to Andor was Skeleton Crew. One of the lead actresses in Skeleton Crew is the new Slayer. Sarah Michelle Gellar was in Rebels, which you need to watch, because she was with Freddie Prinze Jr., her husband, who's the lead character. So there's some connections with Buffy.
Yes. And I was obsessed with Sarah Michelle Gellar, obsessed, anything that she touched, I was excited about. So I really should watch Rebels.
Yes.
I should.
There you go. Brilliant. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Thanks
care. So much.
San Diego Comic-Con is in the books for 2025, but there was loads and loads of news coming out of it. One of them was a very cool photograph of Eman Esfandi as Ezra Bridger in Season 2 of Andor, the first photograph we've actually got from the set so far. There was a few other pictures. We also saw a shot from Maul Shadow Lord as well. But to this picture of Ezra, looking very happy with himself in what looks like a New Republic setting. Beard has gone, hair is trimmed, but those baby blue eyes are right there front and centre. It's very cool to see a photograph from Season 2, considering we're probably, where are we now, end of July? We're probably still a year away at least from seeing the season as it goes. They're still filming it at Pinewood and other locations. But what did you make of seeing our first shot from Season 2 of Ahsoka?
I thought that was really cool, because actually that photo, I went, do you know what? Now I see it. Don't worry about the purple hair or anything like that. But yeah, I can see why you'd think, he would make a good Ezra. Got the little scars. The photo, which of course is perfect for podcasting. It's probably a jacket, but it's got what you could almost be associated with Disney era Star Wars waffle folded pleats down the sleeves. So quite a few different costumes got, like the Resistance pilots and Andor. Couple of bear costumes have got this kind of.
Poe Dameron's got it as well, I think. Yeah,
exactly. That's bringing a design style on that, and I know some weird compaddy type greeblies on his shoulders and stuff. So yeah, it's cool. I wonder where he is, because it does look like it could be on some kind of Carillion Corvette, doesn't it? It's kind of very white, or it could be Home 1 or something like that.
I was going to say Home 1 or Tantive 4, or certainly Home 1's a good shout. Actually, I think that whiteness has that Home 1 feel about it. So it wouldn't be at all a surprise if Home 1 was involved in Ahsoka Season 2. I'm very pleased with it. Like you say, he's got that Ezra vibe about him, and you can definitely see it more now than you could when with the long hair and the beard in Season 1. And just to see where they take the characters and what other characters come into Season 2. We don't know an awful lot about it yet. Dave Filoni said at Celebration that 2/3 of the season is a battle. There's going to be a lot of action. There's a lot going on. Thrawn, of course, is back in our galaxy, whilst Ahsoka and Sabine are still in the Peridian galaxy. So there's a lot to be sorted out. We've got to pull those Purgles back to get them home, hopefully.
Do you think that's going to be something that's going to be fairly quickly addressed at the start of the season?
That's a good question, because I think it depends on how long the gap is between the two seasons. Will it be literally like end of Force Awakens into The Last Jedi, where they kind of overlap? We see what's going on in Peridia, but also we get to see Thrawn arriving in our galaxy. I mean, he's got to speak to the Shadow Council. He's got to take control. We know that Pelian's there. We saw the Shadow Council in Mando Season 3. So, there's things to be sorted out there for him to finally essentially fulfilled the prophecy of returning. And there he is to lead the Imperial Remnant, or whatever they decide to then call themselves. So there's stuff to be done there. I can't imagine he'll go straight into it. He's got some politicizing to do himself. I like to think within the first 3 or 4 episodes, really. I mean, how many episodes was season 1 of Ahsoka? Was it 8?
Yes.
You know, you like to think that we'll all be back together in the same place, fighting alongside each other, and with other characters as well. Unless, of course, actually, they're not. And you've got this, you know, on the Peridian Galaxy, you've got this Jedi thing going on, the existing galaxy, as it were. Is there a term for that? Our galaxy just hasn't got an our galaxy. The Star Wars galaxy, to my knowledge, doesn't have a name. And I wonder if that is more the Thrawn versus Hera plot. You know, it's a Gandalf coming over the hill with everybody in, you know, in Helm's Deep. So you think it might be more of a military conflict, a straight-up military conflict? I mean, if you're looking at the era, you've got to think Akbar's around and those people are around, Mothma's around. I think what they need to do is they need to pretty quickly get their asses handed to them by Thrawn. The one thing that we need to see, and I think the casual viewer needs to see, is actually why people are so like, oh my God, it's Thrawn. And so you need that. And then I think also you've got to tie it in with the witches, you know, the Night Sisters. So that's maybe the call to get Ahsoka and that back. There's got to be like the galaxy needs to be kind of on the back foot to sell Thrawn's involvement. No, I totally agree. And to that point, I think we know as kids, Boba Fett was the man, right? In an era where all you had to do was look at somebody, you knew he was a badass. Boba Fett is the ultimate example of that. You wouldn't mess with Boba Fett just on sight. We didn't see him do a lot. You saw more in Empire, of course. Not so good for him in Jedi. But Boba Fett is the ultimate character that his reputation precedes him and does half the work for him. And it's in books and comics where you got to see how good Boba Fett was, but never really on screen, which is why I love a season 2 book of Boba Fett, but I want it to be a book of Boba Fett set probably before Star Wars. Build that legend so we can see why he's the badass that we know he is, but modern viewers will go, Boba Fett, supporting character. Thrawn is the same. So I think you're absolutely right. I think if he has a big skirmishes, big conflicts, if it's him going head to head with Akbar, which you kind of assume it would be at that time period, Akbar needs to be humbled. He needs to be, look, we've really screwed this one. Get out of Dodge. Back to the edge of the galaxy they went to at the end of Empire Strikes Back to regroup and think things through. Make their plans and come up with a better way. Because you're right. If you don't see Thrawn at the top of his game, then what threat is he really? It's just all words. Some words. And you know what? I think for this week anyway, me and you are out of words. You're absolutely right. We are at the end of the episode. Well, my segue was better than yours anyhow. No listeners' question this week. There are none in the bag waiting to be unleashed, at least none that are still relevant. There was some that we never quite got to, but I'm going to put out the call for some more listeners' questions over the week. So when we record next time, we will have a whole bunch of fresh questions and obviously loads more Star Wars news to talk about. So, if you would like to send in a listener's question, please do. And Mr. Newbold can tell you how you can go about doing it. I definitely can, and here's how. Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links.fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fantha Tracks TV and Fantha Tracks Radio. Thanks to James Semple for the Fantha Tracks intro, Blues Harvest for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 o'clock UK time. Our weekly news show, Good Morning Tatooine, goes live Sundays at 9 o'clock UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fantha Tracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news. And that's me done for this episode, Mark. Welcome back. Felt like I never left. But I did. With a nice tan, actually. I'm not going to complain too much about it. Well done. So yeah, thanks very much, dude. I will catch you next episode. Hopefully sooner rather than later. So everybody else, stay safe. Take care. Remember, buy old Star Wars stuff, not new Star Wars stuff. But if you do buy new Star Wars stuff, support your local independent toy store. And as always, may the Force be with you.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Start Your Engines.